The following program is rated TVMA. This program contains topics and viewpoints from metaphysical professionals. Topics, conversations, insights, and experiences are meant for a mature adult audience and may not be suitable for younger viewers. All insights, experiences, and conversations contained in this show are meant as informational. Always consult either legal or medical professionals when needed. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to Terra Turas, the Metaphysical Roundtable. 5 professional readers coming together, including Brenda Lynn, Heather Lynn, Jamie Gibson, Reverend Pat Beers, Michael, and most importantly, you, the audience. Walk with us as we cover different aspects of the metaphysical and spiritual sides of life. Bring together our insight, experience, and discussion to a roundtable event. And now, here is tonight's host. Good evening, everybody. It's Michael coming at you here with another edition, our episode number 10 for Terra Turas already. We've reached 10 already, which to me is just unreal. As you can see, we are missing a couple of people from our normal group out this evening due to some illness, and I hope that she gets better very, very quickly. Out this evening is Brenda. She's in the chat room. She's kind of doing as she can, so she'll be available in the chat room if you've got questions for her. I know she's going to have some questions. Joining us here in just a little bit, she's running a little bit late, is going to be Heather, part of our normal panel. But this evening, on your screen, in the upper left-hand corner, is our special guest astrologer, Tammy Manzo. How are you doing this evening, Tammy?
Good. How are you doing? How's everybody doing?
Doing really well. Now, down on the bottom left-hand screen is our panel member, Jamie Gibson. And then over on the right-hand side is Reverend Pat Beers.
Hi, everybody.
So this evening, we're going to be covering topics that are affecting a lot of people. And it is great that we have a guest astrologer to be able to turn around and show us or talk to us about what's really going on and what's happening. Tammy, I'm going to take a minute and turn it over to you before I turn around and have our panel members talk to you kind of more on a one-on-one. So if you want to tell us about planetary energy and things that are going on, that would be awesome.
Well, the most exciting thing that's happening right now is that all planets are direct. And of course you're thinking, what do you mean? All planets, are always moving forward. What's so great about all planets moving direct? Well, I like to explain it this way. It's very easy. Let's say you are on the turnpike and you've got 2 lanes or 3 lanes of cars and you're passing up a car that's going, 60 miles an hour, you're going 70 or 80. Well, as you pass that car, it appears that the slower moving car is moving backwards from you. They're still going forward and you're going forward, but you're going at different speeds. And that's really what's happening with the planets. The planets all have their other, their different orbits, all different shapes. The planets are moving at different speeds. There's different densities. So it's not like apples to apples. So when the Earth kind of speeds up and kind of passes up one of these planets, it appears that the planet is moving backwards. And because all the planets have energy and all the planets have vibration, we're affected by all these vibrations all the time. So when it appears that the energy is moving backwards, it's really turning inward. It's shifting us out of, beta state to alpha state. We're going inward with those vibrations. So there are planets in retrograde all the time. The farther out planets are usually in retrograde about 40% of the time. And the closer planets to the sun or to the earth are, retrograde a couple times a year, like Mercury. People may have heard of Mercury retrograde before. It could be 3, sometimes 4 times a year. Venus goes retrograde every 18 months. Mars is every 2 years. So what's so special about all these planets going forward, non-retrograde direct motion all at the same time? So that is just the wonderful energy that we're feeling. Probably everybody can tap into that right now compared to last year. Last year were so many retrogrades. Some retrogrades overlapped on top of each other. We barely got out of one. The next one came, and it just felt like we were in quicksand the whole time. Nothing got done. You couldn't start anything. You just felt like it was so much effort to do anything. And now, with all these planets apparent direct motion, we're just zooming along. Like, it just feels clear. There's no quicksand. There's no, struggle. It seems like we're not swimming up against the tide. We're now floating with the tide, and the tide is like carrying us right along. So that's the big deal right now.
That actually helps quite a bit in explaining for all of us. See, and this is where Brenda comes in so handy, because she's talking and allows me to do all the transitions that I'm doing. It just makes me giggle. I feel so bad for her being out, not feeling well. That just, it stinks. But when you talk about Mercury retrograde and some of the energies that are in that, and how it is changing when everything is in direct alignment, how long is this direct alignment going to be? Do you know?
Well, I got it all written down because the energy is so strong anymore. I can't trust my memory. I'm on different days all the time in my mind. So we actually have 2 periods of all planets direct motion this year, which is quite different than anything that we've ever had before. So not only is it going to be, we're in it right now. Wait a minute, where am I at? I lost right. Oh, here we are. Okay, so January 6th to March 5th. And then we start again on March 29th, and we go until April 11th. And the little break in there in between is when Mercury goes retrograde. So that's that little, 3-week period in there in March when Mercury goes back. But to have a bonus one this year is exciting. In 2014, we didn't have any days at all. I did some research on this. 2014 had no days out of 365 days when all the planets were direct. So this is a really cool thing.
Hey, well, you mentioned that, and it makes me question, is this an odd thing to have all the planets in alignment or going direct at the same time for such an elongated period of time? Yes. Because actually, I wrote some things down. The research goes back to 2008, where 2010, for example, 5 days out of the entire year. 2012 had 31 days. 2014 had 0. 2015 had 6 days. 2016 had 6 days. 2017 had 28 days, and 2018, which I don't remember this at all because there were so many other retrogrades and other things to mess with your mind. But there was actually 65 days last year where there was all direct, which is odd. This year, 73 days. Now, in that 65-day time frame, were there any spans of time that are similar to what is happening now? As in, how long is this all direct? How long is this period right now?
Oh, the one that we have right now, what is that? Like, it's about 2 months. It's about 60 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the other part is like 12, 13 days, which is awesome.
In that period of time, the shock, and these are things that I would ask simply because, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know anything about astrology. Yeah. So the other ladies on the panel are going to be asking questions here in a couple of minutes. I know nothing, so my questions may seem poor in nature, but it's just I don't know. But is there a shock of energy when we went from planets going all over the place to everybody's moving in a direction? Was there a shift in that energy that people might have felt?
Oh, you mean like around the new year when everything like all straightened up and
Yes.
we all kind of breathed that sigh of relief, like, oh my gosh. I
Now,
know I felt it like on New Year's Eve, like I was tapping into it. How about you guys? You're all intuitive. Were you guys feeling all that as well on some level?
I felt calmer.
Yeah.
I felt calmer.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel more of and I felt then too, more of a kind of like a jolt, like Mike is saying. But maybe that's because of my own sensitivity versus somebody else's. Because I can feel the collective instead of just the one. So, yeah, not quite as calm as everybody else is saying, but okay. I think I do better when everything is retrograde, honestly. I think I'm just one of those weird people.
You know, you might have been born with retrogrades in your chart, which would make you feel like, okay, this doesn't faze me. Everybody's running around, oh my God, it's retrograde. And you're like,
Yeah, no, I was born with the retrograde Venus. So
really? Okay.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it feels normal to me, but
Yeah.
all of these planets lined up in behaving themselves,
Uh-huh.
it just feels off to me.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It feels like I've been telling everybody to hop on the train. Like, let's just do that. And I heard you say, like, we're just flowing with it. But, hey, has it been intense?
Yeah.
Very intense.
Yeah.
It feels very earthy, like permanent. Once yeah, this is weird. I know I feel like I should feel calmer and more centered, and I'm just like something is a little off.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, Heather. Not that you're off, but I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel it too. And I think it's because it's the 2019 3-year and
here's
It's too long of a stretch because we're not used to it for this long. We're like 5 days hit and run, 6 days hit and run. Yeah, we could do that, and then it's back to retrograde again.
And that makes me question, because this is such an elongated period where everything is moving direct, are people going to fall into a lull of this energy and become so accustomed to it that when the next planet does go retrograde, is it going to be like a slap in the face?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because we're all zooming along, we're all on the turnpike in our own lanes and we're like all going the same speed, and then that one lane is going to be Mercury and it'll go retrograde in March and all of a sudden it'll be like, you know what I mean? Like you talked about a slingshot. It will be, it'll be like a slingshot, like back.
Wow.
So we're customized and we're becoming customized, I lost my brain, to speaking out, right? And to manifesting things. And it's all quick now with this quick energy. And when it goes retrograde, it won't be. We'll be like, why did I say that? Or, oh, this isn't, like we're going to maybe shoot ourselves in the foot a little bit, or maybe,
That's going to be a very interesting kind of time, simply because because we are at such a length of time already, that people are going to be accustomed to things moving in this kind of energetic direction, and all of a sudden it's going to be like yanking on a collar going, come here. And probably for a couple of days, I'm going to do what everybody else does. I'm just going to hibernate in my house. I'm not going out.
Anchor down. The other thing that's going on right now, too, there are 4 planets in their natural in the signs that they rule. So they become not more powerful, but they're like zooming along as well. So Mars is in Aries and it's the natural ruler of Aries. So there it is. Jupiter is in Sag and that's the natural ruler of Sag. So there's more power there. Saturn's been in Capricorn for a while. Last year it was in Capricorn as well. So we're still getting used to that there. And then Neptune in Pisces, and it's been there for a while as well. But I think the big thing is Jupiter and Mars moving into their signs, their energies, because man, Sag is just so expansive and positive, like, ooh, optimism. You could maybe become more optimistic than you should be, because it seems like, wow, everything's great. Everything's hunky-dory,
Now, since you mentioned that, is it going to turn back around to people becoming irritated, agitated, grumpy?
Well, it'll go retrograde. What day did I mark it here? Jupiter will go retrograde on April 10th. So right in time, right when you're doing your taxes, you'll be like, oh my God,
Oh,
what
Lord.
did I do last year with my money? Yeah.
That's going to be funny. All right, I'm going to turn this over. Individually, we're kind of going around the clock here. Jamie, if you would, what kind of questions would you have to be able to ask Tammy?
Yeah. So you mentioned Mars is in Aries and Jupiter is in Sag, and I'm in Aries and Heather is a Sag. So I'm wondering if that's also too kind of a little bit going with why this is feeling more intense for both of us right now, and more intense when everything changes, the course of the year, because
Yeah.
Mars I know is a warrior, not so much optimistic, and
Yeah.
I'm ready for that. So
Right.
I'm just curious if that's what is, if that has such a big influence on.
Yeah, Mars should be sitting right over your, sun and moon, or maybe even right in between, and that's going to fire it up. That's fire. So it's, firing that moon up, and that's the emotions, like all that stuff that's under there being cooked. And then, your physical body through the sun, it just feels like, oh my gosh, I have to do something. I have to get up and move. I can't sit still. I have to, move around. So,
Yeah, that's interesting. Because like I was telling you before the show, I've just got a lot of clients, maybe they're, because I don't ask for zodiac signs when I do readings. So, but the majority of the clients I've been talking to have been a mirror of what I'm feeling, to just put it that way. Have to, I've just been telling them, give it a week, back away for a week. Let's see what it looks like next week. That's what I'm telling myself too.
And that's the great thing about energy, because it's all in cycles. If you don't like what's going on now, like the weather in Ohio, just wait a while, stuff will shift out. So
yeah. That's cool. Yeah. So, and you had also mentioned that you too were doing charts when you were young. So what was it that pulled you into astrology?
Oh man, I think it was, I don't know where I even got the first astrology book from, because my family was so strict Catholic. And, my dad did find out eventually later on, what are you doing with this astrology? But I kept it hidden. So I don't know where at 12 years old, I don't know where I would have gotten the book from. But I just knew I had one and was called to it. And it's got to be from past lives, like an old remembering, like, oh, okay, here's my old friend again,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So more self-taught until, you got older?
Oh, yeah. And then once the internet came on, gosh, you could do so much for free. You could do charts here and there and, really look at something professionally rather than, sketching up your own wheel. And you could have those transits, put right in instead of doing the, the logarithm, trying to, do all that math and everything. So, yeah. But I also started studying with Alan Oken about 7 years ago. We started doing those online seminars. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those.
Yeah.
But I think I've taken most of everything that he's done. And he's really cool. I like him a lot. He's the soul-based and kind of esoteric astrology. And there was a man I studied from out of England as well, named David Rowan. And he's really good too. He has a background in like the Jungian psychology and NLP and all these other, you know what I mean? So it was interesting to learn from that perspective too. So,
yeah. And then I just have one more question. I know I'm being a hog here. Because I know some astrologers, they're just strictly astrologers because they like the math of it. They like the science of it.
Yeah.
And that's how their brain works. But I've also met some astrologers who are also intuitive, and so it's more of an intuitive feel from the chart more than this the very rigid science of it.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, where do you fall in that?
Yeah. Well, the math is not my thing at all. It never was. But it is, and it's intuitive, but it's also channeling. When I get in the space with my client, we start talking, like stuff comes up as we create it. And stuff has shown up like, wow, oh my God, when she was talking about something, like something will pop in and there'll be like healing on the spot. Like something will happen. She'll remember a memory or something will come up. Oh, this is why this has always happened to me. Or, I thought I was crazy. A lot of people will say, oh, I thought I was crazy, but yeah, stuff will show up when we're talking. I had a lot of really cool, like I do a lot of past lives out of it as well. And somebody that I just read for not too long ago, she had her Chiron in the 8th house, and talked about her money issues, and it came out that it just came to me like, wow, you were in the depression, you like invested your company's money and you lost it all, and you're carrying that wound and you need to let go of it. And she's like, oh my God, I cry every time I think about the depression. I'm like, well, hello, forgive yourself, you know what I mean? Let that go. You couldn't see the depression coming, but yeah, so it's that. It is very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I could ask more questions, but I don't want to hog up
We're
the time.
going to come right after our break. We're going to come back and we're going to continue doing that very same thing, because as I'm listening to Jamie asking questions and some of the things Tammy's saying, it's sparking some different questions in my mind. So we'll come back and we'll do this whole thing all over again. But right now, Heather, tell me, what kind of questions do you have for Tammy?
This seems like a pretty basic astrology question. My knowledge base is just very, self-taught, whatever intrigues me, and, intuitive stuff that I get. Can usually pick out what element people are, but, I'm not like, oh, they're a Sagittarius. Okay, Sagittarius is kind of easy because I'm one, but you know what I mean? I can, like, oh, they're an earth sign, or explain. And so I'd like to hear it from different people, because sometimes it just clicks. What you've got your rising sign and your, I know there's like, I know it's really in depth, but can you like explain a little bit about like what your rising sign, like what does that indicate? And what, you know what I mean? Like not specifically each sign, but just like, what does that mean if you're rising sign?
Well, the big use of that, the rising sign is determined by your birth time, your exact time of birth. So and that's why you can't really get a good reading unless you have your exact time of birth. But, as the earth turns on its axis, well, there's like an imaginary elliptical of the 12 zodiac signs that would come over the horizon. And that exact time, like longitude and latitude of your time on that day, there's that imaginary elliptical right there. But what that really does is set all the houses in motion, and it places the planets in the houses. And that's really, that's really the true part of why we need the rising sign time, the birth time as well. So rising sign, when I look at it, it's your sun sign from your immediate past life. I kind of look at it that way, because it's like the shadow energy that you're projecting out that you don't know you're projecting out, but you carry that through from the immediate past life, which I think is kind of cool. That's the way I look at it. Yeah. But then it places the houses and it places the planets in the house. So if you have, planets in the first house, it's way different than planets in the, fourth house. And that's why you need that time to make the chart.
That's really essential part. Yeah. I never knew that in that past life thing.
Well, that's just me. Not a lot of people would say that. You know what I mean? Like, not a lot of astrologers would go out on a limb and say, "Oh, I look at that as that past life." But that's something that I found with all the studying and the stuff that I do. I'm like, oh yeah, that's that.
Yeah. Well, when you said it, I got confirmation.
Yeah.
Accurate.
So your rising sign is what?
Gemini.
Oh, nice. Okay, good. So you had a past life as a Gemini, last life. And so that's good. So Gemini and Sag kind of, they're the, you move up that next cycle. So Sag is like the higher expression of Gemini. It's good.
Interesting. Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, so one more question, and it's almost the same thing, but like, then we have lots of them. A moon sign.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a moon sign in Pisces, and I just assume that makes me a little more emotional, but I really like know what that means. Like,
yeah, because the moon is the subconscious component, and I look at that as a lot of past life memories, like cellular memory. We come in with all these memories and programs and thoughts and beliefs from past lives. Where does it go? It goes in that emotional body. in our light body, which would be like the moon. So all that Pisces stuff is, you know, you were healer in past lives. You sacrificed yourself for the, you know, for other people. You helped out. There's a lot of things in Pisces. There's, you know, Pisces has the energy of all the 12 signs in it. So that's a very advanced, you know, Jesus was Pisces, not Capricorn, he was Pisces. So all of those, you know, Christ light, you know, that loving stuff, that's all part of that Pisces. Yeah. People could take advantage of that. They'll know. They know you'll give them the shirt off their back and they're in your last dollar bill and all that, and you'll love doing it because that's what Jesus did. You know what I mean? But you know, it's like, you know, you might be teaching these people to, you know, you might be enabling them. You might be like keeping them from standing up for themselves or doing whatever. But yeah, cool. So yeah, so you got Sag moving over your sun this year. So this is going to be a big year for you. So there's going to be, has it already happened? Have you got like a raise, promotion, new job?
I mean, I've been making a buttload of money selling cars. I mean, last year I literally didn't have a job or any money to speak of for that.
Yeah, nice.
But I keep getting signs about like this opportunity, and I have like, I am supposed to take it, whatever it is. I'm supposed to take it. And I feel like it's going to be, I know I'll know that it's time to say yes, but at the same time, I feel like I'm going to be a little bit conflicted in the, like, you know, so, like I'm finally feeling secure where I'm at. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Do what you're supposed to do now. So
right. Well, it's going to be in Sag until like December, till the end of the year. So you don't have to take the very first opportunity that comes. It could be maybe there's more than one coming, and that's why you're feeling like, wait a minute, is this the one? Is this the bus, or is there another bus, or which bus should I take? But yeah. And there could be multiple opportunities. So yeah, you should grab them all. That's what I would do. Grab them all, and then you can turn them down. You know what I mean? Like you can always change your mind and get off that.
That's not really resonating.
Yeah, right. But you should try it, because this is a 12-year. It's a 12-year cycle. It comes in a sign that your sign every 12. It's a year in every sign. So what was happening for you 12 years ago? This should be like the cycling up. It should be like the next expression of last year or 12 years ago. What was I doing? And now you're building on that. That's the next 12, and then the next 12.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. You seem like you're pretty young. Are you in your 20s, 30s?
I'm 32.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So you haven't even had your next Jupiter return. So yeah. There's new things coming. Yeah. Cool.
She's the youngster of the group.
Yeah. Nice.
All right, good. Pat.
Hi. What did you say was in Capricorn?
Saturn. Saturn's in Capricorn, and Pluto's in Capricorn as well.
Okay.
Pluto's been in Capricorn for a long time. It'll be like another 7 years. Saturn in Capricorn just moved over there last year, and it'll be like another year and a half. And it's going to start to kick some butt once it comes up to Pluto.
Is that good or bad?
They meet in 2020, and then Jupiter by that time will have moved out of Sag and go into Capricorn, and they're going to make almost like that grand cross that happened in 2007, where it comes together and comes apart, comes together and comes apart. A lot of people are going to be shaken up. If you remember what happened in 2007, when people started losing their homes and the savings and loans went down and stuff. Not that that's going to happen particularly exactly like that again, but it's going to be another cosmic awakening. Like, people, you've been out of alignment. Saturn is the, your mastery level. Capricorn you should be the authority, and those of us that are not working to our level of authority and mastery are going to be shown, what you've been doing, right? And those of us who have bosses that, have risen to the level of their incompetency, we don't know any of them personally, but you know who they are. They're going to be shaken up. Like it's going to be from the top down, and businesses that are in alignment with the new earth and, recycling and, conserving the earth, and anybody who's out of, doing the good, like the good that they should be doing for mankind, they're all going to be zapped back in alignment. They're going to be shook up.
The thing I just heard was it's those who are going, it's all about me. what's in this for me are the ones who are going to get their blocks knocked out from under them. Y'all fascinate me and you scare me to death at the same time. They
Yeah.
look at my chart and they go, something happened to you at this age and this age, and I'm like, what? And they,
Yeah.
I have a lot of. Did you know Buzz Myers? Ever hear of Buzz Myers?
I have heard of him. I did not know him, but yeah, I've known of people that have talked about him. His memory lives on. I wish I would have known him because he sounds really cool.
He was a character. Follow the Moon was his thing, and we went to Virginia Beach every year for 14 years. I did anyway. It went on for about 20, and that's how. Michael went down there too. I'm just fascinated how, like, I'm Virgo, but my rising sign is Scorpio.
Oh.
My moon is Aquarius. I have a son who's Aquarius. My husband is Scorpio. Our daughter's a Taurus, and I know it's in there, but it fascinates me how all this stuff just. It all ties together. Everything we do all ties together. But y'all fascinate me when you can look at a chart and say, this happened then and that happened then and then. And I'm like, how do you know that?
Oh, yeah. Yep. When you think that there's nothing but chaos in the world, people that don't believe in God or some kind of a divine order, and then when you see the chart and you can see the timings and you can go back to where an eclipse hit or, look at a, planetary alignment, that when something happened, you lost your job or you got married, and you can look and see what was there and you go, oh yeah. Yeah.
Because I got married during Taurus, May 18th.
Oh.
And our daughter's a Taurus. And it's just so interesting to me how y'all do that. I'm just absolutely fascinated by this.
Yeah.
And I know enough to put in a thimble and it might fill it. It might fill it. It just fascinates me. It just absolutely is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I had another question, but it went so later.
I've got a couple of questions for you that are just off the top of my head while we're talking about more everything moving in direct. How much everybody talks about Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
But what kind of energetic does either Jupiter or Saturn present in this kind of time that we're experiencing right now?
Yeah, well, Jupiter. Let's do Jupiter, since how there's a Sag. We'll do Jupiter. So Jupiter, the planet Jupiter, has the energy and the vibration of positivity, being positive, and expansions and opportunities. And to me, it designates karma, good karma coming from past lives, and it's all the good deeds that you've ever done, coming forward. It's the blessings that you put out, in all your past lives. They're coming back to find you. And it's our belief system. When you have a strong Sag or a strong Jupiter, you've got those high vibrations. Wow, I believe. I'm positive. I'm positive. I believe in, the world's my oyster. When you have that retrograde, or when you're born with the retrograde, I'm finding that people have had past lives where that positivity and belief in a higher power was shook from them, and they shut it down. So I read for a lot of people that'll have Jupiter in retrograde, and this lifetime they are learning to believe again in a higher power, in the power of being positive, and the power of what they put out comes back to them again. So when Jupiter goes retrograde for all of us, as it goes through retrograde, then we have to look at our inward belief system. We have to look and see, how are we as positive as we can be? Why are we not thinking high thoughts about this? Or, you know what I mean? Where in our lives can we change our old programs from gloom and doom to, higher good things happen to me? I believe in good luck. I believe there is a God. I believe there's a reason we're all here. And that's turn inward during the retrograde. We have to find that. Sometimes we lose our way, sometimes we have the dark night of the soul, and we fall off, bad things start happening, and then we have to go inward and search, like, oh my God, why is this happening? Why is this happening to my friends who are good people? What's happening to them? And sometimes you have to go in and see where that belief is in you. So, and that happens kind of naturally during the retrograde. When Jupiter goes retrograde, it's like 156 days. So it's a long time. So we don't notice it, unless we pull back and go, oh, I'm I'm doubting God, or I'm doubting the power of myself, or I'm not seeing good luck happening. What's going on? Unless you would consciously know it, you wouldn't know maybe that's happening. Does that make any sense?
Well, I've got to turn my attention over to Brenda, who is here and not here. She's in the chat room, and because of her illness, she has to be able, at will, to be able to get up, stand up, sit down, things like that. So she didn't want to be interruptive, going, okay, hold that thought, I'll be back in a minute, and get up and walk around.
Yeah.
But she said that she is a Sag Sun, Sag Rising, and Scorpio Moon.
Ooh.
And
Wow.
there was a question that she had posted in the chat room, and she said, I felt jolted at the turn of the year like Jamie. She and I are both double fire signs, and she wanted to know, would we feel more jolted because of what's happening?
Well, you said her moon was Scorpio, right? The moon was Scorpio?
Yep, Sag Sun, Sag Rising, and
Okay.
Scorpio Moon.
Well, I think what she was feeling was, her moon in Scorpio. Last year, Jupiter was in Scorpio. So what it does is it works on a lot of levels. The first thing it does is expand whatever it is that you already have going on. So that Scorpio moon is very deep, and a lot of things may get buried down in there, And when that Jupiter came over her moon last year, it was probably clearing some stuff out, bringing some stuff up maybe that she hadn't looked at before, because Jupiter is always blessings. So when Jupiter crosses over your planets, it's bringing some kind of healing to what's going on, healing and blessings and good luck and good karma. So a lot of times, releasing and being aware of what's in there is part of that. It's part of that healing. So I feel like her moon was being clear out of a lot of stuff, and that was probably a pretty difficult year for her last year. And when it changed over to Sag, like in the end of November, that's probably when right away she felt it. As soon as it left, she went, "Whoa, oh my God, thank God!" And then it passed over her ascendant and her sun, and bringing that optimism back. Would that make sense?
It does, and Jamie would be able to answer that because she's really connected, like a twin, with Brenda. The two of them experience many of the same things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we haven't known each other that long, but there's ways we might as well be attached at the hip in some weird ways of what we go through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very odd.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you. In an oddity, we know, however you would want to put it, the guys in the white jackets go, Pluto's a planet. Oh
yeah.
Wait, Pluto's not a planet. No, wait, we're thinking Pluto might be a mini moon. God knows what. But going one step out further than that, does astrology account for anything like Planet X or things like that, or does it just deal with the planets as we know them?
Well, they keep discovering new ones all the time, and then they add them in. Like Pluto was discovered in 1930, and that was right during when the Depression hit. And so there's no mistake. We talk about that Pluto and Capricorn stuff that's going to be happening, that's going to shift the financial system coming up. Mm-hmm. When that was first discovered, there was all that kind of same stuff going on back there. But there's a lot of different schools of astrology. Some of them use asteroids. Some of them there's even like a dark moon. There's one that I studied that they thought there was a twin moon, and they still use that as a hypothetical point. It's way out there. There's a school in Germany that use all the other like centaurs and things. So there's a lot of different systems going on, besides the planets. But there's a lot of people saying that the next planet is going to be discovered sometime soon. Who knows?
Wow.
Possible.
Just one more quick one. Does astrology take into account, like, I believe it's called Io, the moon? Does it take in the major moons of Saturn or Jupiter? Do those play direct into readings?
Yeah, I don't use those. I only use like Chiron, the one satellite of Saturn that they picked up in 1977. That's the one that I use to show the wound. But there are some that would use like Io and Ceres, and there's a whole bunch of them that you could. I mean, you could just start with everything from astrology. Hera, and just there's a whole bunch of them. Ceres, and it's just Vesta. When you start adding like 100 different things to look at, it takes away from the specialness. Like, let's say you did a card reading, tarot reading with 3 cards. Those 3 cards would be important. If you picked out 3 out of that whole entire deck, those would be important. If you used a deck, if you used all 78 cards and read them all, what would the importance be? You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, now you're just fitting them all in.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That makes sense?
Yes, it makes an awful lot of sense.
That's the best way I can describe it.
And in the chat room, because Brenda's 10 seconds behind us in viewing everything, but she did turn around. She goes, it was very difficult when you were describing her past year, and she said you nailed it right on.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a short 3-minute break to get people so they can stand up, stretch for a minute. We're going to check out one of our sponsors, and in about 3 minutes, we will be right back. New Age Emporium and Healing Art Shop. It's the largest locally owned and operated metaphysical retailer in the Sandusky, Ohio Tri-County area. Serving the Firelands region since April of 2014, they're pleased to offer a space that is welcoming, relaxing, and open to everyone. In the Emporium, you will find a variety of unique gifts, special events and services, as well as classes and workshops to soothe your mind, body, and spirit. If you're in the Sandusky, Ohio area, look for Divine Awakenings at 1006 Tiffin Avenue, Sandusky, Ohio. Their phone number is 419-502-9137, and you can find them on Facebook at /Divine Awakenings LLC. We are back from our short break we get to chatting, and there are times that I forget almost to transition back to what we are doing, and I was like, uh-oh. I wasn't paying attention this time. See, this is where Brenda is so on, because I'm so busy watching what I'm doing that she takes care of the other stuff. But she is in the chat room with us this evening, and we're going to open up a chat room for a couple of questions about the topics that we're talking about. But once again, I want to go back around because I know that Jamie has some other questions. I'm very sure that Heather has a few more questions. She's sitting down there with she looks like the Cheshire Cat today, sitting there with a grin and waiting. And of course, Pat will be right back. She had to step out for just a quick second. But Jamie, go right ahead. If you've got a couple more questions or things that you want to be asking Tammy.
Yeah. Okay. I am an amateur astrologer, very amateur, and I'm good being able to see what's in different houses. But when you start talking transits and squares and all of that, how really truly is important is all those things? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I find a lot of times too, astrologers will start talking and I just kind of glaze over because I don't know what in the world you're saying. You know? So
I'll tell you what,
to me.
I read a lot of websites and I'm always looking for another viewpoint because every astrologer reads stuff differently because they, relate to things differently. And they're almost 99% of them will talk, like you said, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this and square and all this stuff and jargon, and stuff. And what does that mean to anybody? I'll even read it and go, what? Just tell me something quick. I don't want to think about this, translate this, But if you could find somebody who explains it plainly, those transits, you've got your chart. This is the energy you're born with. And these are the planets inside that make your energy signature. They keep moving around. And boy, that shows timing. And here's the way the flow is going. And if you try to go against that, that's why it's good to know. So if you can find somebody that explains it plain, like, all right, like Jupiter is moving, Heather. So it's wait, who has the Sag ascendant? That's Brenda?
Brenda, yeah.
Okay,
right.
So it's moving over her ascendant right now. So that brings opportunities to like her personality, like, opportunities to, okay, maybe she'll be offered a job or, get that promotion or something, like if it was moving through, let's say the 4th house, that's your home and family. It would be like, wow, all of a sudden you might want to move or you might want to fix your house up, you know what I mean? Or all of a sudden family stuff might start to get like, oh no, all of a sudden everybody in my family, all this drama came up. So it could happen on a lot of different levels. And it is good to know that stuff because, you can kind of, if you know something's going to happen, like, uh-oh, I have this feeling like there's this family, argument brewing, but nobody does anything. But then, boy, when that planet hits at that time, it's like, okay, that's when it's going to go. And that's when it's going to explode. So you can actually use the timing to shift and change your life. You can work with it or try and be ahead of it. Like I'm always trying to be ahead of it. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I know this is coming here. So it's like, that's my deadline. I better get moving. And, it's an advantage to being ahead of that. Yeah.
And then the other question I had, listening to everybody else's questions, it's fascinating that you can pick up past lives in those charts. I'm just curious how that is. And is it just your past life or is it 8 lifetimes ago or how does that come up on the chart? Because I've never, like I said, I'm amateur with it. And so I didn't know that was there.
The things that you would look for, I look for Chiron for the wound, and there's a wound that you've had. And here's the thing, we don't know how many past lives this person's had. They might have 15,000 or they might have 100. And so, but we don't know how many times this wound has happened. But I'll tell you what, from the law of attraction, once something happens and you make a mistake and you start beating yourself up and you become afraid to make that mistake, what happens? You call that mistake in over and over again, right? You just call that in by the vibration that you have. So we don't know if it's one lifetime that like, that wound is there, or it's 10 lifetimes after that, or 100 lifetimes, or every lifetime since then. I would be more apt to think, okay, once this thing happened and they made a mistake and something happened, I would say they would be activating in every lifetime. But we don't know how far back it went or how many. Right.
And that's, I guess, where that other question I asked earlier was, is it astrology, or is it astrology / intuition, psychics work that you can see all of those lifetimes? I wasn't sure from a chart. Can you just see that? Or is that, you're pulling it in from someplace?
Yeah, I'm pulling it in. I'm channeling it. Because sometimes I'll be reading for people and I'll be like, and I'm saying something and I'm outside of myself and I'm saying, oh my God, why are you saying why are you saying that? And they'll be like, oh my God, yes, how did you know? I'm like, okay. And that's happened enough times where I know, like, okay, information, but you need to have that basic framework so that the energy, that the information that's being channeled, I can make sense of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then squares are bad, or trines are bad?
Well, squares are, you're talking about natal chart?
Every once in a while someone will say, oh, this is squaring. It's not. And I'm like, I don't know. Should I hunker down someplace?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like to look at everything positive. So in old school books, man, when you read those old books and you hear about, squares and this and that, you're doom and gloom, man. You might as well just hang it up. But now it's like, okay, squares are opportunities. Here's an energy and here's another energy, and you're going to find a way to make it work. It's not apples to oranges. It's, they're not even parallel. It's like you got two things that are beating each other up. You're going to take them and make them into something, and some of the most famous, most accomplished people in the world were born with tons of squares, like Oprah Winfrey, you know what I mean? Square and square and square and square. And there's a lot of people born with that easy, the triangle, the trine energy, and stuff either just flows to them or they become very lazy, or as soon as they have to work for it, oh no, I don't want to do that, So I say squares are good. That's what I say.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I get astrology readings every once in a while, and I love them and I'm fascinated by them. But there comes a point during the reading where I'm just I quit taking notes because it's like, what? And it's just washes over.
Right.
I'm not
right.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you. That helps.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, Heather, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 minute before that Cheshire Cat comes out, because I've got Brenda, who is in a chat with me right now, but I'm going to put Brenda's questions in right before you, so don't slap me.
Okay.
Tammy, in kind of chatting on the side here with Brenda, she had said, I like to think about planets in terms of personalities, like Jungian archetypes.
Yeah.
And do you view the planets that way? And how are those personalities interacting with each other?
Oh, yeah. Well, I always was fascinated with mythology when I was young. I always read, I remember being like third grade or something, getting the Greek and Roman mythology. And really, that's what these are. If you remember Mars from, mythology, he's the warrior, the bringer. Venus is the love thing. You know what I mean? So in my mind, I don't know if you call those Jungian, but I relate to the mythology because that was always my first love. So, but yeah. There used to be a girl on Facebook, and she was an astrologer. She wrote a lot of books for Llewellyn, and she used to have like a little, like a Facebook page where she would have imaginary conversations, like, oh, Mercury said this, and this one came in and said this, and it would be hilarious, and it was, educational as well. But she doesn't do it anymore. But yeah, they do have conversations with each other.
Now, in a simplistic kind of way. See, my brain goes way out there, and if I go off track, Brenda is going to reach through my screen and beat the ever-loving hell out of me. So, when that would happen, do the planets themselves have that kind of personality energy?
I look at everything in astrology as just vibrations in a certain kind of energy. And the name that we give it and the glyph that we give it is just like a label so we can understand it, really. So when I think about Mars energy, it's all passion and fire and go, 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 Energizer Bunny. But we could call it by anything else. too. So I don't get, am I describing this right?
Yeah, that
So
makes
it's not
sense.
like archetypes or anything.
Yeah, yeah. But you could, if that helps, because everything in the world, we relate to archetypes all the time, and who hasn't read mythology or been forced to, at some point in their lives. So everybody kind of remembers, Mars, Venus for sure.
Okay, thank you. All right, Heather. It's all you right now.
I'm just so fascinated. I don't even know if I have any real questions. I love to learn about it. It's something that's like, it's always on the back burner as far as really studying it, but I find it so fascinating. I think I already said that. So as an astrologer, when you meet people, do you just like have them pegged for their sign immediately? I just feel like you're just like, oh gosh, you're clear of the Scorpio over here. Or,
Yeah, kind of. You know what I like to do? I like to watch the Real Housewives. And I watched them, and like the Beverly Hills one, I got on them right away, and I started watching them, and I was like, oh my God. And I started writing stuff down. Now you can go to that famousbirthdays.com and look them up. Like, oh my God, when you see their chart and you see them on there, you know exactly. And I watched that like from an astrology perspective, like, what are they going to do now? Like, I don't know if anybody ever watches that, but the two sisters, the one girl had her Saturn, or no, Pluto sitting on the other one's sun, and I was like, oh my God. And they couldn't figure out why they were fighting all the time. And I was going to write them. I'm like, oh my God, get an astrologer. That'll solve all your problems. Well, the other sister's not on the show anymore, but the Pluto girl is still there. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. I do that right away. I start to like get that like, okay, but sometimes it's deceiving. Like I had guessed that Michael had a lot of like Libra energy when we talked before, and he doesn't. Well, you had some energy, some planets in there, right? But he's a Gemini, so yeah, and me pulled, yeah.
Yeah, it was just natural trouble.
Yeah.
Just natural trouble, exactly. Yeah, I can usually, like I said, I usually am good about the elements, not necessarily the specific sign, but I do for sales, and I got their ID in front of me, and I'm like, oh, so you're Aquarius, all right. So
Yeah.
look at me like, what is wrong with this? Buy a car, not talk about my sign, but then are just like, yeah, I'm blah blah blah, and we have a conversation about it. So it's kind of interesting. The more I learn about it, how we interact, and how people are compatible, just more compatible.
Yeah.
Others. I married a Pisces.
Okay. Well, yeah, your sun and moon, the sun and moon's together. Yeah.
It didn't go very well.
Oh no.
Almost final. No, and I'm just like, well, I'm just too much fire, and he just like extinguished my fire. I let him.
Yeah.
My fire after so many years,
Yeah.
Again, keep the water signs away from me.
That's why you were drawn to him. That sun and the moon have a powerful, connection for sure. So you weren't wrong on that level, but who knows? There's other things too. He had a rising sign. Maybe the risings weren't compatible, and
and that's why I always tell people. I'm like, well, there's other things that are in a role here, but again, I'm not super knowledgeable about it, but I just toss things around. I love to just have conversations about it, because like you said, everybody's perspective is so different on it, and it's just really such a fun thing for me to hear you talk about.
Yeah. Well, there's three things that'll drop. Well, a lot of things will draw people together, but if you have two out of the three, like there's the risings, if the risings are compatible, the suns are compatible, and then the moons are compatible. So if you got 2 out of 3, you got a really good chance. But that's only like a 75, you know what I mean? Like that's not even guaranteed, and usually one of them is the challenge point. Like Jamie would say, what's the square? You know what I mean? What's the square? Here's me and here's him, and you got to find a way to work that out. So, and it just depends if they're willing to, you know. Yeah, you can't make them do what they don't want to do.
I'd like to ask you why God gave me a Cancer spirit.
Wow.
I used to thought that I had the patience of a saint, and some days.
But your son is Cancer, or your husband?
My son is a Cancer. And he's just like so emotional. I mean, he's 3. Okay, so take that. Oh my goodness, that boy feels like for the world in one tiny little body. I'm like,
do you know his moon? What's his moon?
I don't know. I really need to I can't remember. I had wrote it down at one point, but man.
If you just go to astro.com, it's free to plug your stuff in, and it'll give you the chart, and it doesn't have the interpretations. You have to buy that, but you can just look and see real quick. All right, oh my gosh, what if he has a Pisces moon like you? You know, so that would be like, that's why you're feeling him. When he's emotional, you're feeling it. It's like, wow.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I will be one of the people that will tell people in the audience, whether they're watching, they're listening, or they're going to catch this later on, do not be one of those people to go to that website and then blame it for all the crap that's going on in your life. Do not do that. Please.
Excellent point. Still the creators of our life.
We all have to take responsibility in our life. Is astrology going to help you understand what's going on? Yes. Is it there to be a good tool in your life? Absolutely. Is it there to be, oh my God, I'm this, and that's why I behave like the bullshit?
Yep. Exactly, right? We're supposed to learn how to, spiral up from that. We've been given, maybe some of us are given some downright crap hard energy. And our job on this planet is to free ourselves from that negative and go to the, positive side, because each sign has a shadow side. We could live there if we want, be the victim. The moon is making me do this. I have a lot of people around me that want to do like moon ceremonies and moon. Oh my God, I have to do this. And what's the exact time of the moon? And I'm like, oh my God, get off of that moon thing. Don't let this moon, dictate to you. Do anything you want. If you want to manifest, go do it now. You know what I mean? Don't wait till the moon is full or new or an eclipse or something. I'm like, yeah, you're giving away your power, So the chart should be like, where's your power lie, and how can you use that? How can you free yourself from that old programs of, ooh, I can't do this. Yeah, you can do anything you want, Spiral up from that.
Yeah.
All right, Pat.
I was just sitting here thinking, anybody who knew my husband and knew me would say, they tell our kids, she can't be your mother. That cannot be your father. I know both of you, but always through different settings. Mine was more the social, local community council. I was a realtor for 28 years. My husband was a chemist. He was Indian guides and blah, blah, blah. But we were together 43 years, and it's just comical. And then I'm Virgo, Scorpio moon. He was Scorpio. I have no idea where his moon was or what. We were such opposites, and yet we. Do you consider this is my kind of personal thing? I always thought astrology was like a roadmap. It could tell me what the potholes were and what I should watch out for, and along with trusting your gut and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm fascinated by it. I really am. And like I said, when they look at and I love it when they look at my chart and go, you must be intuitive.
Oh, yeah.
I want to let them know, what I do. So I say, yeah, I get gut feelings. I get intuition,
You can absolutely see that in the chart. I look at so many people, I go, oh my God, do you know how super intuitive? You are psychic and intuitive, and you can channel stuff. Do you know that? They're like, well, I kind of thought. I'm like, oh, yeah, hello. It's
I don't want to deal with it. A lot of people go, don't talk to me about that. I don't want to know.
You can see that.
It's just fascinating. And when you said like 2007, that's when my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. 2008 was when his retirement went down by half, So, and again, it's like looking at my chart and saying, ba 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 ba. How do you do that?
Yeah.
I know for you all it's a numbers thing, but oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, the planets and their movements and everything that happens in this universe is in charge of spiraling all of us up as a mass whole, you know, up to the next level of consciousness. So every full moon that comes around helps us release something. Those of us that aren't consciously doing it, something's being pulled off. Just ask the cops and the doctors, you know, in the hospital. Something's being pulled off, right? But we don't want the moon to do that for us. We want to do it before it happened, you know? And if you know there's eclipses coming and stuff's going to be shifting like rapidly, wow, okay, you do that now, do that work now, do the inner work now before this stuff forces you. Because a lot of these people, when this Saturn and Cap and Jupiter comes and Pluto is there, a lot of these people, the millennials, the super Capricorns, they in 1989 and 1988, almost all the planets were in Capricorn, and these kids now are becoming 28, 29 years old, and they're having their Saturn return, and this is all happening, and it's going to be, like you said, the greed, what's in it for me, and blah, 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 and oh my gosh, there is going to be a huge awakening. These kids are all going to be called into service, like, hello, you're on the planet, taking up space, what are you going to do? You know, and they're being called in now, like they're being drafted into the cosmic army. Come on, get moving.
Also, the full moons, I don't necessarily pay any attention, but some full moons, I just want to sleep. I don't want to see anybody. I'm going to be going in my cave and walking behind me. And other ones, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm like the Energizer Bunny. This is driving me nuts. I can't sit still. I can't.
Yeah. They would be making some connection to something in your personal chart, into your natal chart. So probably watch those Virgo full moons, like I asked you before the show. The moon's in Virgo now, but imagine if it was a full moon in Virgo. How would that be? You know,
I would probably be bouncing off the wall.
Yeah, right. And then your ascendant, I can't remember. Did you say it was
Scorpio?
Scorpio, yeah. So probably a Scorpio full moon. That'll sit right on your ascendant, and that'll like boost up your energy as well. And then any other personal planets like your Mercury, where's your Mercury at? Where's the Venus at? And every full moon that comes on those would boost.
I have charged someplace here. I have no clue.
Yeah.
I'll be talking to you. But it's amazing. It's just in the past life things. When we bring that forward, is it to kind of correct what we maybe didn't do the last time?
Yeah.
That's why it's just keep happening.
Yeah, it's to clear that out, especially when the wound, you can see that Chiron, it plain as day, you can see that. And, you know, I can see that. It's interesting because when I look at somebody's chart, especially in my friends, I'm like, uh-oh, it's like seeing them naked. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I know more about them than they know I know about them. And if they knew how much I knew about them, maybe we wouldn't be friends anymore. Sorry, friends. Yeah, but you see that wound, and you're like, oh, no. And most of the time it's something they can't see on their own, because it's so, you know, unconscious or buried, or they're not ready to look at it. Yeah, so you can see that for sure. And the other thing I look at is in past lives is the Saturn, because Saturn is the karma, you know, the great lord of karma. So wherever Saturn is sitting in your chart, there's some issues that are coming forward from that as well. So, and if that's connected to your moon, then there might be a lot of, you know, emotional stuff that need to be addressed. You might be suffering from depression all the time. You know, that could depress that. Same thing with your sun. If that's sitting on your sun, it's like, ooh, you might be sick. You might not have energy. There's past life stuff coming forward that's affecting your body.
I know a couple of older astrologers. I'm talking 80s, 90s years old. And they often will talk about Saturn and being able to predict this person's death or.
Yeah.
What is that all about? I've never understood that. And I know that's not necessarily an exit point. They'll say that's when you make the choice, stay or go. But when they start talking to me about like that, I start going,
yeah. The old time astrologer, when you read the old astrology books, it's like gloom and doom, and they will say, oh yeah, you can predict that by Saturn, because that's time. Saturn designates the length of time. But the newer astrology people, and myself especially, I look at, you look at 8th house, because that would be the ending, like house of endings. But I also look at, and not to scare any of the Sag people, but when Jupiter comes over your sun or your moon or any kind of like an ascendant, that's kind of an ultimate healing point. where some people decide to get off, the bus at that point. So when Jupiter was moving through Libra, I knew two different people that Libra suns passed on. You know what I mean? Of course, it's always a choice. Not that you guys are going to die or anything, but that's where the healing comes in. Like you said, the exit point. What are we looking for? Pluto coming in close to a sun or a moon and sitting there, because Pluto is the ultimate transformational energy. So that would designate like as exit points as well. But you can't have just one. You would have, you have to have a lot of them. Just like when you read cards for people and you don't just see one card that would show, like a death, there'd be plenty. Also, you can really need to look in the other person's chart. Like, you're married to somebody and you want to know when are they going to die. You look in your chart to see when is that going to happen to you. And you would be seen in your chart like, oh my gosh, there's something, what's going to happen. Okay, it's going to be this person passing on if they choose, because there's many exit points, we can choose from.
And that's what people don't seem to understand. It's all about choice, but it's also like I've had 2 near deaths, and the first one was age 6, the second was 31. I wanted to go, and they told me I had 2 little kids. And then the statement that was made to me was, "You get to come back and do all this all over again until you satisfy what you're supposed to satisfy." And I'm like, I think I'll stay, rather than think all that emotional stuff again. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I've got another question from Brenda, and then I've got a question that's here in the chat room. But Brenda, I wanted to know, she said, are there strengths to counter the weaknesses in our chart?
Oh yeah, the triangles, the trines, when the planets on the inside of the chart, when they make, it's all about geometry. So when they make certain angles at certain degrees, again, I hate math, but if you run the chart, they'll connect them with lines. And when you see the planets that make the triangle, that's your superpower. That's like a trine, So I see people with the water trine, super intuitive, man, from the day they're born, they just get stuff all the time because those energies working together, they've learned to work with those energies. They've worked with their intuition many lifetimes, and it comes in now grounded, super grounded into them. It's never going to be separated. Yeah, so that would be like a strength. The squares would be, some people would call them weaknesses, but I call them opportunities to grow.
I would agree. It's just I snort or I laugh. Brenda's going to love this. Just for a minute. It wouldn't be me if I didn't. You say that you view things differently. Some people call them trouble. Speaker Tony Robbins turns around and he asks people, he goes, everybody here likes surprises, right? And everybody in the audience will agree and say yes. He goes, bullshit. You only like the surprises that you want. The other ones that you don't want are the ones that you call trouble or an issue. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, boy, that's true. Okay, right. From Jared Walters in our chat group. And he said, Tammy has always been a huge help with providing me with information on the energy of the shop, and from the shop's opening day to the most favorable time to do so. He said, Tammy, can you explain how the energies of the planets dictate when is the most favorable time to do something or when not to do something?
Let's see, we got about 10 minutes to talk. This is a really in-depth question. There's a lot of ways that we can look at things, but just to make it quick, like a quick reference, I'll say, you guys have all heard of like the Farmer's Almanac, right? Like they would give you the dates of when are the barren planets. There's like a thing that they call barren planets, or when are the fruitful planets, or even good days to fish, good days to plant your stuff. And that is exactly correct. There are certain energies, certain signs that are barren, and then they're not going to allow things to grow, and certain signs are going to be like crazy growing. So Taurus, think about it. That's May, May, everybody plants their crops. So that is a very super fruitful sign. Anything that you create on that day, like if you open your shop or if you started up a Facebook page or launched your website or, you know, change the name of your business or whatever, anything that you want to put out there, you'd want to find those favorable energies. Anything water, you know, Cancer grows a lot of things, supports life. You want to find good times based on your birth chart as well. So it depends where your personal energies are. So it's kind of like, I can't really answer that right off the top of my head without looking at someone's chart. But if you look at someone's chart, you can say, these are the days that you should avoid for surgeries. And I do a lot of that. People call me all the time. I'm going to have a surgery. Is this date okay? And I'll be like, oh, yes or no. You know, some days no, some days yes. What day should I launch my page? What day should I do this? I can find those based on their chart as well. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can I ask, in connection to that, as I think I heard this once before, like buildings will have an astrology chart, or companies will have an astrology chart. I mean, you kind of answered with the company thing, but is the building then based on when it was built, or how does that come about?
I think most of the time we do it when the store opens, like when Jared opened his shop.
You know, you're building a new tower or something. So, and you've got 15 offices or companies in that tower. They don't all have the same chart, but the building has, you know what I mean? It's like a multi-dimensional chessboard, I guess. But I was just curious. I know that's really deep, but
the whole thing is you would have to decide, like if they did a ribbon cutting back in the old days, they used to do a big ribbon cutting in a ceremony. That would be like the recognized birth. Like, okay, we're all going to agree. Here's your day. You open the doors and the first customer comes in, and that's actually the birth. So, but the problem is a lot of times you don't know when, you know what I mean? When was that?
Right.
So, but the businesses have charts. I've done charts for businesses. You know, the United States has a chart. The problem is there's, you know, 5 different charts out there because nobody knows exactly when, you know, the Constitution was actually signed. So everybody has their own, you know, valid points. And I look at each of those charts and go, oh my God, it could be, that could be, that could be. So there's a couple different rising signs for the United States, but when you read them, it's absolutely the energy of the states for sure.
That's an interesting question about buildings, Jamie. I never, and because I am astrology illiterate, it never dawned on me to think that a building in and of itself, I know the buildings have energy, you know, as a reader. You walk in, you can feel energetics of a building, but it never dawned on me that they might have their own astrology capability. Interesting.
Yeah. And then it depends what you want that business to be. You know, like if you want it to be like a healing art center, you want a lot of energies like in Pisces, because that's all that healer, you know, and intuitive stuff. But if you want a gym, you would want a lot of that Aries, like you want Mars stuff, because you want people to come in there and
kick it. That's interesting.
Do you use, because you were talking about like, you know, it's a good day for a surgery or anything. Do you use numerology at all? Like in your, I mean, it seems like such a, not a far leap from one to the other. Because I had surgery a couple years ago and I was like, I just added it up in my head. I was like, okay, it's okay. Surgery on that day. You know, I don't know anything about the astrology, but.
Well, for surgeries, I look at the moon, because that you know, our bodily fluids are affected by the moon. You know, the moon affects the tides, and we're 80% water and blood, you know what I mean? So you don't want, you know, like the full moon, risk of bleeding too much. Scorpio, bleeding too much. You don't want a heavy Mars moving through, because Mars is like cutting, rules surgeons and knives and stuff, and you don't want that in there. There's void of course that you would look at when the moon is getting ready to change signs and it kind of gets a little weird and wonky. You don't want anything like that. And anything moving through your 6th house, because that's the house of health. So you want to avoid that too. So one time I had a lady, she was going to have a hip replacement, and she told me about the time when she wanted to do it. And literally out of a month, I found like 2 days that were good for her based on all those things.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so, and that's just, it's awesome. That's so cool.
I have people asking for wedding days, and boy, I'll tell you what, the weddings too take on the energy of that stuff that you have. Yep, and what the energy is of the world that day. Yeah. So I had somebody asking me already for 2020, and I don't know if you guys have looked forward to 2020, but there are a lot of retrogrades. Venus is going to be retrograde again. Mars will be retrograde again. It's going to be all wonky again. And I kind of told her, I said, you have like one month.
Wow.
And that's what you want, and then let me know when you get close to time and we'll fine tune something. So, yeah.
But like I said, just curious, because I told you I was born with a Venus retrograde.
Mm-hmm.
So would that be good for me? You know what I mean? Someone who doesn't have it retrograde in their birth chart, you'd want to be more careful with that. But with me, it's like, hello, you're fine to get married any month this
right?
Right? Is that how it would work?
Mm-hmm. But, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but usually during Venus retrograde, like sometimes old boyfriends come back. Are you married right now?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Someday we'll have to have a talk about that love stuff that goes on, because I think people get, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They get the idea that they can fool around with you behind people's back and.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get ready and wrap up the show for the evening, because I know Brenda might join us here after we're done for a minute. But this evening, our special guest, Tammy Manzo, you can find her on Facebook, and it is called North Node Venus Astrology. And I know that she's got an awful lot of information there. And in the chat room, I had put her email address. If you want to email Tammy, you can email her at, North Node Venus Astrology at gmail.com. Did I get all that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. I also know that she does, she works from her own office, as well as she is at Jared Walter's shop, my brain has drawn so many blanks, and it should never.
Divine Awakenings.
Divine Awakenings up in Ashtabula. And Sandusky. See, my brain is like so far out there. I'm thinking of things, and it's like, no, Jared with Divine Awakenings in Sandusky, Ohio.
Yeah.
My apologies, Jared. Tammy, I would seriously like to thank you for taking the time this evening to join us and be able to talk about so many diverse things, but as well for the understanding of what's going on with planetary energy. That's a huge one, and I hope that people were able to pick up a few things on that as well. So, everybody else, we, as a group, will be back next week. Hopefully, Brenda will be able to join us at that point. I don't know about the rest of you, but I really miss your energy being here. You know, it's one thing to have her in a chat room, but not seeing her shiny face. It's like a couple of times that Heather has had to not be here. It's a part of the family's missing.
Yeah.
So for Brenda, I hope that you get better as quickly as possible. We need you back in here. Everybody else, I will see everyone again next week, Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. live right here on Facebook. And we'll have another show of Terra Turas. Until then, I hope that everybody has a great weekend.